we going, Tommy?
Suicide Cliff and Banzai Cliff.
Suicide Cliff and Banzai Cliff. All right, let me tell you all the story. So, in late June, early July 1945, the Battle of Saipan was fought right here on the island of Saipan during World War II. This island was originally a Japanese colony prior to World War II, and so obviously during the war it was a Japanese-held territory. The Americans came over to try to capture the island. This was a very strategic island for the Allies, and the Battle of Saipan actually was a very, very hard-fought battle, and it's considered to be the D-Day of the Asian battles for World War II. So these are called Suicide Cliff and Banzai Cliff, and the reason that they are is because the Japanese had pushed a lot of propaganda on the native people who lived here. Now, the native people were the local Chamorro and the local Carolinian, which are the native people of this island. And also, we had a lot of Japanese that lived here prior to World War I, because this used to be Japanese sugarcane. I'm sorry, World War II, Tommy's correcting me. That's how come the Japanese were here. So when the Americans came and landed on this island, they Japanese had convinced all the people that lived here that this island, or I'm sorry, that the Americans were going to kill them, and not just kill them, but savagely brutalize them. And so the natives, especially the Japanese that were here on the island, in fear for their lives as the Americans were coming, they actually were hiding in the cliffs and the caves all around the island. But as the Americans moved further up north up the island during the battle, they got up here to where we're going, which is Suicide Cliff and Banzai Cliff. It's the highest point. It's in Marpi, Saipan. And not the highest point, but it's the most northern tip of the island, I mean to say. And they literally jumped off these cliffs to their death. Anyway, it's a sad story, and it's actually very terrible. There's film of it. And you can see the people jumping to their deaths. It's quite traumatic to witness, because that just goes to show you the power of propaganda. But I've talked enough, and so let's go check it out. We're at Suicide Cliff. If you look right here over my shoulder right there, that's Banzai Cliff. We'll get down to that here in a minute, but you can see it's into the water where they jump. Directly behind me, which I don't think you can really see much, it's just the cliff. It just drops straight down. There are some caves that people hid out in, but to this very day, they are still recovering bodies 70 years later of the Japanese and trying to reconnect them with their families. So now we're gonna head down the mountain and go down to Suicide Cliff. I was told to tell you we're going to Banzai Cliff. Here we are now. We're at the bottom of Suicide Cliff, and if you look up, we were standing right there before. This big cave hole that you see right there, it might have been a cave prior to World War II, but also this is where the mountains were blown out from the artillery fire from the ships out in the water to, you know, it could be anything from mortars to grenades to bombs. But they took, the mountains here specifically took a lot of heavy artillery hits directly from the ships out in the water. So that's what you see. The mountains here have a lot of holes. Typical day in my life. Pink Mustangs and my husband on a tripod. So, a word of friendly advice. It's really hot here. And I know there are those of you who think you know what hot is. You're from the South. You're from California, you're from Texas, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee. You think you know what hot is. You do not know what hot is. You have no idea what hot is until you get here. So, two things. Deodorant and sunscreen are your best friends. Don't forget to pack deodorant and sunscreen. Banzai Cliff. You see right here over my shoulder, that is Suicide Cliff. And as you see, they just landed down on the mountain, and directly in front of me is Banzai Cliff. So come with us. Those waves, but I don't think I'll jump. Common spotting Saipan, a great big flock of metal birds laying on the ground.